Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Today, we're going to discuss navigating financial independence as a couple, or at least the journey towards financial independence. Both Alexes back again. We're going to talk about our thoughts and our feelings on trying to navigate what is probably going to be a multi-decade journey towards financial independence, but doing it with a spouse. Perhaps you're married, perhaps you're in a long-term committed relationship with your other half, etc. It's navigating certainly money conversations, and also really weathering storms as a team, as a unit on the journey towards financial independence, because it's lovely when it's kind of the sun's out and everything's nice and things are looking up and markets are going well. It's another story entirely when the landscape gets a bit stormy and markets are down, and you've really got to dig back into the why you're doing it to keep kind of plodding in the correct, they're generally in the right direction. So, Alex, broad thoughts on navigating FI as a couple, and then we'll dig into some like key areas that we've come up with.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks, Alex. I think it's quite an important topic this because I imagine there's a few people listening thinking, "Oh, I really want to go, down the FI route. I'm really keen to start investing, but actually, I'm not sure about my other half and how that will affect one, maybe our relationship, or two, our lifestyle, and will they be amenable to it?" There's a lot of unknowns because it is a very unusual path. You are swimming against the crowd. But I think, the things I take away from it is one, I had the same kind of apprehensions when I approached it with my partner, and we can talk about that in a bit more detail. But I must admit, it has got so much easier now she's on board, and I feel we're both pulling in the same direction. We both have a kind of shared goal and a shared why we want to pursue this, and it's making life a lot easier, I think, for both of us financially. And I would probably go as far as to say, if you are in a couple and you really want to go down this route, I think you both have to be on the same page. I think, one can be more enthusiastic than the other, and that's certainly the case with me and with my relationship. I'm constantly reading about investing, obviously do the podcast. I'm so into it. Whereas my partner Amelia, she's less so, but it's certainly the why and the time saved and the benefits of seeing investments grow. Like she's really on board with that and she likes that. I'm much more into it, but I'd say we're on the same page, but not exactly on the same pixel. I think I'll steal your phrase from our pre-meet, Alex. I like that. But I think, yeah, I would go as far as saying if you're not both there, then I think it's going to be a real struggle. Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Alex?
Yeah, I think I don't really know where that page or pixel thing came from out of my brain. So we were just discussing about but both partners in the relationship or marriage being on the same page, and it's okay to not feel exactly aligned within that particular area. You don't have to be identical, as I put it, on the same pixel. You can be on the same page. In fact, it would be a bit weird if you were identically on the same kind of viewpoints and thoughts. It's yeah, a bit strange, that one. So I think the idea of both of you having a broad understanding of why you're doing it, what it is and why you're doing it, and really the power and the flexibility it can give you, that has to be a joint enterprise, in my opinion. I can't see any successful long-term relationship or marriage where one person lives as financially independent and the other spouse continues to have to work. I don't think it's going to work. If I'm wrong, email me and let me know and tell me why it works for you as a partnership. But maybe I'm just being a bit nearsighted or blind to areas that that it does work in. So I feel like a broad overview. So you're loosely on the same page. If you think about life as a journey, we sort of have a map. What Alex and we intend to provide through this podcast is to give people a bit of a roadmap or at least some signposts towards financial independence. And that doesn't mean that the journey will just be a straight line up and to the right, as most hopefully investments go. It means it'll be up and down. It'll change back on itself, and it'll go left, right, down, up. That is just life. I mean, life's going to happen whether we like it to or not. It's just maintaining some semblance of direction. I think as well, humans need some form of direction because it stops wandering thoughts. And I always like, no, I have more clarity, and I like knowing that I'm on this broad path. There are some other people in the fire community. It's growing day by day, but it is a very niche area. As Alex said, we are swimming against the tide here. So if there's anyone has any ideas that will help each other out, let's share them, and we can all learn from each other. In terms, Alex, of openness in relationships and broaching money conversations, you've said that it was you that first did the reading about FI. It kind of lit a fire under you. How did you broach that with your partner? How did it come across the first time? And really, what kind of approach did you use? If someone's here listening to this and they're thinking, "Oh, I need to discuss this with my other half, my husband, my wife, whatever," how how do you think it's best to get that across? Because then I've got a story of my own as well, which I'll share after you, and I think there'll be some similarities, but also some differences too.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think for me, so you say I'd always been really keen on this, and I'd done a lot of reading, almost in, I wouldn't say in secret, but I'd certainly done a lot of reading and research. And I think there's a risk of you can almost go a bit too kind of too heavy, too fast on some of these things. But we'd recently purchased a house, and obviously involving taking out a mortgage, and I thought, I don't want to be chained to this for so long. I need to get rid of it. I don't want it hanging over my head for years and years. And a good way of, as a kind of entry point, and I think this goes back to the last episode of invest v overpay. Um, I did a few scenarios on what, if we were to overpay by X amount a month, what could that do to the mortgage term? And I started to share that with my partner. And when you can almost see the maths in front of you, and it's, because both of us do like fairly kind of intense and quite demanding jobs. So, and it's certainly not something that we want to be doing way into our late 50s and 60s. Um, I just showed a couple of different scenarios of, well, we're able to free up X amount a month. How about if we were to put this towards a mortgage? Actually, I think we could save, on one of the scenarios, we were saving like 8 years of time off the mortgage. And it was that connection of, I therefore don't have to work, or it certainly takes all the pressure off having to do a demanding job to service a debt by, 8, and I don't have to do that for 8 years. That's a huge win for not a lot of sacrifice in the grand scheme of things. So that was a kind of my first foray into the concept of, let's start putting some money aside with the purpose of really trying to, you know, dig out the mortgage. So I guess that was the first like kind of foray into it. There's a few others. I think the big one for me, the one where I really noticed the shift was, so I wrote my book, Financial Freedom. It's easy when you know how. And that was almost a culmination of everything I'd learned through reading blogs and books and investing and then put it into like UK format. And then Amelia, my partner, she was the kind of proofreader and editor. And so over the period of about 9 months of writing, editing, rewriting, re-editing, I saw a shift in her, and a completely unintended shift. That wasn't me trying to kind of underhand change her mindset, but it was from that reading some of the content. She was like, oh, actually, well, how do I go about investing? Or maybe I should start investing over and above my pension. And because she is a very good saver, but very much cash savings. So transferring some of that into investments and taking on a bit more risk, upping pension contributions, those things started to come out. And yeah, I then, we're at the point now where probably every 6 months, I would say, we have a spreadsheet where we tally up our kind of investments and our net worth and how much money we're putting towards those investments and how much longer we have to be kind of to get to a portfolio the size which would sustain the lifestyle that we want. And then also at the same time looking at our mortgage, how much of the mortgage is left, what can we do to keep overpaying that, and how long does that look? And at what point could we potentially cash in and buy something for cash, and then we're completely free. So but I say that's a process that's taken about 3 to 4 years, from introducing the concept of overpaying something to now, you know, regularly, reviewing our household finances and our goals and kind of where we stack against them. So that's and it's so nice how on a payday she'll put the money into the Vanguard. She shows me her Vanguard account. I'll show her my Vanguard account. It's all very you know it's a bit odd, but we take a lot of pleasure knowing that it's that thing of we're working towards a goal of buying ourselves time and time together and time being able to do what we want to do. And it's that why which is really important, and to not forget, to your point earlier. But hopefully that gives you, I mean, that was a lot of my ramblings, but I'm hoping that gives a couple of insights into kind of how it started and got introduced to kind of to the point at which we are now. But yeah, keen to hear your story, Alex, and how you broached the issue with your wife.
Yeah, so when I first read into it, it was something like, I want to say September, late kind of autumn 2019. And I just had this light bulb go off in my head. And if you've listened to any of our other episodes, you'll have heard me speak about just the clarity that I saw within the path and reaching the end goal. So I then I wanted to tell my wife about it. So I ran in the kitchen and she was like, and I said to her, "Can I tell you about this thing?" She's like, "No, I'm busy." And I was like, "Oh, okay. But it's really important." "No, I'm still busy." And then at that point, I obviously was not ready to hear it. I think she was cooking or doing something important at the time as well. So I just started gradually introducing money into conversations. And I twinned that with thinking about life, or just life thinking of where do we want to be when we're 40? Where do we want to be when we're 50? Where do we want to be living? What do we want to do as a job? Um, and just things like that. What do we want our house to look like? And it's just things like that we've realized we're very aligned with. And this was a number of years ago now. And having that mental image in your head of having a little house in the countryside, having enough space for some animals, and really being able to grow some other vegetables, have a greenhouse. I mean, that to me is my idea of being financially independent. I would love all of those things, maybe a donkey or two, and it's picturing that. And then we work back and we think of, okay, that's where we want to be when we're this age. We've got X number of years. How can we get from where we are now to where we want to be? We roughly think we're going to need this much money to buy the house. Okay, let's start there. Let's start paying our mortgage down more quickly than we have to. Let's use some of the disposable money that we have to as wealth building to help us with that goal. So it made us question spending a bit more. So I wasn't anywhere near as frugal or as intentional with my money as I am now. And I started looking at it as, if I buy X thing, I have to work 4 hours to buy it. Is it still worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And if it was ever a no, I'd put some of that money aside. And then we'd decide later what we'd do with it. So now I just automatically invest it each time. And it's working together with a shared goal. And I think that this topic can be a little bit dangerous. You might find that you and your partner actually want different things out of life, which is a difficult thing. Perhaps you can align them, perhaps you can't, and come what may of those things. So it's communication, but communication at the right time. We're not advocating that you write a finance book, as Alex has done. or run into your kitchen shouting about this new idea you've read about on a blog and that your wife or husband must listen to it now. Those are both extremes. But I think just generally having a good overview on money, it does usually take one person to really take the reins of money. And I've just been looking up some research surveys by BlackRock as a company, and they've suggested this is all within millennials, because Alex and I are both millennials, but 70% of millennial men enjoy managing investments compared with just 36% of millennial women. I don't know why that's happened. I've not read too deeply about it, but my point is generally one person of the couple will have a more input into their financial journey. So it's probably likely if you're listening to a finance podcast and you're listening to this one, firstly, thanks very much. We appreciate it. And secondly, don't be afraid to make some of those changes yourself. So you set yourself an investment account up, speak to HR about your pension at work. Just start shifting the needle in a positive way in the direction that you actually want to be facing. And probably you'll feel better. You'll look like carry less emotional financial weight around with you. Your partner will notice that. And then maybe they say to you, how come you're so happy now? And then that's an entry into the conversation. I'm not advocating you print out every blog article you've ever written and pile it on your dining room table and say, like, we must read these before the weekend, or coming at you with a really complicated spreadsheet. I mean, I've tried all those, and fellas, they don't work. So I I talk about it as and when, and I've shown that investing works. So I set up my Vanguard account 2019 December, and I quietly put some of my salary away. I told my wife I was doing it, and then I showed her it. I think 18 months to 2 years later, and I said, "Look, this is what I've put in, but this is what it's worth." And they're different figures because it would the COVID rebound made me quite a lot of money, which I was very happy with. So I said to her, look, this is the growth from investing, and this now means I don't have to go and earn that money because our money has earned that money. And then I planted the idea of actually, what would you do with your time if you didn't have to work? And that's where the greenhouse comes in, the tomatoes come in, the donkey and the chickens come in. And then you're building this idea of that's the life you want to curate, and how do you do it? And either you can work monstrously hard and save all your money in cash and be battling inflation all the time, or you can invest some of your money. And the journey is easier because once compounding is really on your side, you've got some numbers behind your name, your money makes you money. So when you get, I mean, Charlie Munger said that we've mentioned before, the first 100K is a bitch, but then after that, your money starts compounding in a real meaningful way. And before you know it, every year you're earning 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, potentially up to a third salary can be coming in when you get to the mid stages. And by the end of it, your investments are outstripping what you bring in combined as a couple. So it's just smart uses of money towards the life you want, and using the wealth creation vehicles we have in the UK at our disposal, which is an ISA and a pension, to help you get there. Alex, does that answer your question, or did I go off on a tangent?
No, it's really nice to hear that. And I think one thing that I really like is the use of visualization. And it is that, like when you were saying about your house in the country and your greenhouse and maybe a couple of donkeys, you can almost start to really feel it. And I think that's probably one of my um I guess where I'm not so good is that visualizing it. And I think I know that I kind of have a lifestyle that I want, but it's very much, I think this is going to cost me X, and I'm very numbers focused, but probably just because of my background and my job that kind of makes it like that. Whereas actually,
That's why you're the accountant.
yeah, exactly. But I really like that idea of it, and it is that visualization. If you almost together have that visual, it almost you can feel it, and it creates an emotional yeah, like an emotional attachment in you that you know that that's that feeling you're going to have of freedom tied to this activity that I'm doing now. And I think that's really powerful. And I'm sure there's some psychological rationale behind that. But one thing I should probably mention is this isn't in any way like a coercive control mechanism at all. It's about where one person is going to be controlling the money or doing you're forcing your partner to do something. That is definitely not what this is. It is about being aligned and being transparent with each other on financial matters.
That's a really good point. It's 100% not that. We're not here for coercion whatsoever. We're saying here that if you're both trying to pull something really heavy and you're trying to achieve something that not many people can achieve because it really goes against the grain. And if we use, say, Alex, you said about going against the stream or against the tide. Like if you're both of you in a couple are in a boat, only one of you's rowing, you're going to go the wrong way. And if both of you start to row together, and as your investments build, your boat gets bigger, your oars get bigger. Eventually, it develops its own engine. You're going to power your way up the river. I've no idea where that water-based analogy come from, but hopefully it makes sense. So it's that we're choosing the path when we're never forcing the path.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, I like the water-based analogies. So can we just stick with them? I think certainly some things which I've seen in my partner as a result of this is she is a huge investor now. I would say she used to I wouldn't say she's like a shopaholic, but she used to spend a fair amount, and just on like clothes and as probably is the average person, like the average consumer. And she was she'll happily admit that. But she actually did a self-imposed shopping ban where she was only allowed to buy like essential clothes um, over a period of a year. So it's quite an extreme. But so there would be none of the um, kind of new clothes coming. But the exception to the rule if she could sell something and then use the money to buy something back. But it was essentially just a blanket ban, and she did it for a year, and she used the clothes in her wardrobe, and now she's completely downsized her wardrobe, and now would just only ever focus on a capsule wardrobe is probably what you say is what you'd call it. But she's got some really nice quality clothes in there that she just loves and will wear now for as long as she can. But it was a quite an extreme thing she did. But I mean, that was completely that was her ideas, and it really worked for her as almost a way of cold turkey on shopping. And she's got more than enough money now to buy what she wants, and it's the money ends up in the Vanguard or cash savings or some charity giving. She pays for her niece to go to ballet lessons, so it's a huge reward for her for that. So she's seeking pleasure in different ways now, as opposed to shopping on ASOS or other clothing stores, but that kind of thing. So yeah, and that was a huge transformation in her from as a starter for adopting the financial independence movement.
And that's come from her choosing, isn't it? And what a lovely sentiment that actually, what by her own admission, maybe I'll ask her one day, she would have wasted on the next fashion item because we're all told to work really hard, be good consumers, prop the economy up, etc. She actually gets to see her niece do ballet performances, hopefully, and has really pared down the wardrobe into like a minimal kind of style. But to me, that's just aligning with your values and what's truly important. Is it having another pair of jeans, or is it allowing your niece to go and do ballet lessons, which is actually really endearing and actually wonderful. So that's a really lovely anecdote. And I think as well, it's a lot of people. I feel like before I was, what was I, 31 when I figured kind of some of the stuff out. I was very much drank the Kool Aid. I was spending most of my money every month. I was just buying things for the sake of buying things for those tiny dopamine hits, and I'm not even excited when the package arrives. It's just the anticipation of whatever it is arriving. And now I feel like I'm buying time, I'm buying freedom, I'm buying myself a life of less stress. And I can't see a better a better use of money and a better version of me right now than than kind of getting some of these things down. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, so long as you get the broad basic stuff correct. So spend less than you make, um, clear any debts, protect yourself against disaster, and invest invest intelligently, those broadly will get you where you want to go. Yes, your journey will go up and down, but you're at least heading in the direction that you choose, and you are happening to life, and life is not just happening to you.
Yeah, that's a really nice, yeah, really nice finish. I think that's exactly right. With the I think there's a really nice quote in The Psychology of Money where it talks about, I can't quote it verbatim, but it's something along the lines of um, essentially buying your control of your time is the thing which pays the biggest dividends. So yeah, and it comes down to that why you're doing it, and it's you're not shunning consumerism at all. It's about being very mindful with it, with your spending, and as ultimately you're buying time to spend, hopefully, with your loved ones and as a couple, and you have a lot more of it than following a more traditional, societal path of, well, when you're 65 or 70, you can then both retire and travel the world. But, you know, I think for me, it's pulling that forward. And I like that quote there just on, you're happening to life rather than life happening to you. I think that's exactly what all of this is about. Money is a tool at the end of the day, and it's a tool to be able to do what you want with. And buying time and buying your own time and your partner's time is, I think, the best thing you can buy, in my view.
Yeah, agreed. And I think this notion of you must work for this many years and then you claim a pension and you get your own pension and you buy yourself a comfortable old age and you can travel when you're, I don't know, 65, 70, perhaps older. I'd much rather travel at 45 or 50 and be able to climb the mountain and ski back down, not take the train up to the cafe on the mountain, have a latte, and get the train back down. They're two very different experiences. And I'm sure Alex will talk about kind of human longevity and health span in another episode. But I would rather have some of the money whilst I'm fit and healthy, so I can reasonably use it to do exciting and adventurous things, rather than having loads of money when I'm retired and no energy. Or ability to do those things that I wish I should have done earlier. What I don't want to do is get to that point and then have regrets of the things I could have done. So as we are always here, we're here for investing and curating the life you want. If you want to go on a monstrous holiday and you have enough money for it, you're not going to put yourself into debt. Do it. Like like buy the thing, do the adventure, have the holiday, because it's about balance. You can be a bit miserly and invest every like 95% of your paycheck and live in a van or under a bridge or something. If that works for you and you like it, then go for it. But don't do it to the detriment of you in your kind of best years, like your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And it's something that I really take that to mind. So I was listening to another book or a podcast last week, and I can't remember who it was by, but you have these things of like the 8-year-old you and the 80-year-old you. They both can do very different things. So, what will your 80-year-old you thank you for doing earlier in life? And I think that's something that can help sway decisions in the right way or the wrong way. And I always think about what we have now with access to like easily to be able to invest in global markets. It's you don't need a broker, you just need a laptop and an internet connection and a bit of money now. So you can do things that will impact not only your life but every generation of your family to come. And it could be that none of your family members are good with money, that none of them make any investments whatsoever, and you and your partner are the first people to dip their toes in that water. It's more water analogies still, and you can then turn the tide. Here's another one in your favor, and really create some generational wealth. So your future children, their children, your grandchildren, they don't have to go through the slog. You can make their life easier, and it's just a really good use of money. While we are custodians of money while we're alive, I feel like using it to better your family tree. Again, it is a really good use of it. I'm never going to wish that I consumed more, spent more on clothes or shoes or cars or something, when actually I could be seeing my grandchildren having a much easier life than perhaps they could have done. in the long term future. Alex, I think that's all my thoughts and water analogies done. But is there anything else that's kind of ticking in your head?
No, I think we've definitely got our money's worth of the water analogies. But I'm just hoping that people can those listening to it can now go home and feel confident to at least start in a conversation with their partner, just on the topic of fight. And yeah, hopefully it leads to you know good team efforts, and people adopting it, and even just better money conversations and a more transparent, open relationship is, you know, when it comes to money, will be a huge win for us if that's the case. But no, that's all I wanted to add to that. And I would just say, hopefully, the conversations don't rock the boat. Just as a final, the last water pun I could think of. But, no, that was it for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I love the water puns. And I think really our idea here between Alex and I is to whether it rains or shines for financial lives to be easier for people because that's really all we want. We've been through the struggle phase and we're now in the kind of the wealth building phase, and we'd like to skip you out for the struggling by learning from our successes and our mistakes. So I'm hoping that this has been helpful. I've got no more water puns left in me, I don't think. So, Alex, have you thought of any more, or should we close it?
I think I'm all out. I have to save it for the next. I have to do some research and come back next week with some more.
Fine. Our watering cans of puns are empty. See you next week. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.